Welcome back, everyone. Everybody's thinking about go to market and how AI can make go to market better, faster, more efficient. But what if we are all solving the wrong problem? Many of us think we need more leads, more marketing, more features. But what if the real bottleneck has nothing to do with any of those? That's why I asked Andrea Hill to be here. Welcome, Andrea.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
What if we're solving the wrong things?
Well, considering the fact that roughly 80+% of business startups fail, there's no what if about it. Most people are solving the wrong things.
And it's probably also us right now listening to this. So, how can we find out what's the wrong thing, what's the right thing to solve?
The solution starts earlier than that, which is, who are we? What do we do that makes us different? And why do we matter? And when we ask, why do we matter? We're not asking, why do we matter to everybody? We're asking, why do we matter to the specific person that cares about what we offer and how we offer it? And
Yes.
so most business problem solving exists at the symptom level. And that's solving the wrong thing. If you don't get down to the core of what your problems are, or the core of where you're missing the mark, you're never going to solve the right problems.
Absolutely. And how do you know if your positioning, your messaging is actually clear and solid, or if you're on the superficial improvements?
I guess there's at first, I mean, the sort of pithy answer is, well, it's working. But you could have all the right messaging, all the right marketing. You could be genius, creative, doing all the right tools. But if you haven't actually identified something people want to buy in the way that you sell it and deliver it, you're still going to fail. So it's those two pieces. Have we identified that we're selling something that people need? Have we identified which people need it and why they want what we offer as it differs from what our competitors offer? Because there are so few silver bullets in business anymore. It's like having a completely original business, it's unheard of. Completely original product, rare. AI was really original for a minute, and then it was everybody's offering. So that's the starting point. And then the other question is, then have you gotten that message across? So it's those two pieces, and they have to work hand in hand.
Can you give us an example of one of your recent work where you made that transition with a brand?
I'll give you the example of a trade event. So this particular brand is actually a large trade event. It can pull in lots of money, and it was declining. And everybody was falling on the old tropes of, well, trade events aren't popular anymore. Nobody wants to go to trade events, or there are too many trade events, or there are too many trade events for our market in the space that we're in. And so they just kind of threw up their hands and said, clearly what we're offering, nobody wants anymore. But when you step back from the excuses, I guess, and look at it, there were trade events in that space that were growing and doing very, very well. And so if all trade events were failing, then, that would have suggested that maybe trade events are passé. Then some were growing and some were not. So then the question is, well, are there too many trade events? Well, maybe, but if some trade events were growing, why not this client's? And so we took a look at what everybody was offering, and they were offering the same thing. There was no differentiation. And that was the reason that they weren't succeeding. And so then we had to analyze all of the other trade events and see what they offered this market that was shared among all these trade events, and how to differentiate this particular brand. And by differentiation, it wasn't just offering some new fun thing. It was, because trade events can be very fun. it was offering some meaningful thing that nobody else was offering. And that meant digging in and figuring out what that marketplace wanted that they weren't getting, even if they didn't know they wanted it yet. And sometimes that's a lot of work, but then positioning it to deliver something that the other events didn't offer. That was the core level work to get past the excuses and the symptoms and get into, is this a viable offering? And I like that example because trade events are old business. They're not a brand new software. They're not an app. Everybody gets excited about what's hot and new and thinks that's what's going to work. But many times, products that are just day in, day out deliverers of value need to be reevaluated to make sure they still make sense in today's market.
And everybody listening right now goes, oh yeah, how do I do that? How do I find out? Is there a specific process of A/B testing? How do I explore?
So A/B testing is kind of like learning primary math. It's not physics. It's really basic. You change one variable at a time and you watch your results. So no, there's no magic to A/B testing, though you absolutely should do your A/B testing. I'm a pretty good writer, and yet my writing stinks at least half the time. So until I test my subject lines, my copy, and I have a staff of copywriters that are better than I am, until we test their subject lines, their copy, their positioning statements, you always refine using A/B testing. So absolutely do your A/B testing. But the solution isn't A/B testing, it's curiosity. If you're not curious about whether or not your idea is good, if you're not willing to get feedback on how your idea is not good, if you become committed to your copy because you wrote it, darn it, and it felt so good and it looks so good on paper, like if you're not curious enough to find out how to improve, you're never going to ask the questions you need to ask in the first place to get to the core problem that's beneath the symptoms.
I love this. It's curiosity. And okay, so A/B testing is simple. Everybody can do it. Curiosity is where we have to reconnect with. So what is really alive for us right now, and what are we curious about exploring? And then you change one things at a time, and you kind of track it, and you get going. Now there is a data component, right? What is easier to do? What is harder to do? Where is it easy to have the data in one place, change one thing, and you see it immediately versus, having a mess?
So I think like any decent CRM system is going to give you, and by decent, I don't mean CRM 1.0, which is a digital Rolodex. I mean CRM, I call it CRM, now, CRM 4.0, something that really allows you to do automations and testing and test all of your marketing concepts. Any good CRM will do that work for you. Where the data gets messy is pre-data, and it's in how we structure our questions. So being curious enough to figure out what questions to ask, and then being disciplined enough to use good marketing survey science to structure questions correctly. I can't tell you how often, and we're kind of going down a little A/B testing alley here, but if you ask a question in the wrong way, you will get messy answers and you will not get insight. So you need to either be curious enough to figure out how to ask questions well, or you need to hire somebody who can guide you through the process of answering questions well, because any old question is not a survey question. And most people don't understand how to structure questions to get the answers that actually help them make better decisions. So again, it's not the data that's usually the issue. It's how we structure the questions.
It's how we ask. What are some examples of bad questions versus good questions?
You've all seen them. You do a survey and it asks you, there's two questions in the one question. So any question, I don't know what's a good example.
Multiple in one. Yeah.
Yeah, any multiple in one question is going to give you bad data. And any question, we use it in every language that any of us speak. Italian's my example. I speak Spantalian, not Italian, because I learned Spanish first. I'm always using the wrong words. But even when we're speaking a common language, we use the same words in different ways.
Oh, yeah.
This is, by the way, a place where AI can really be helpful to you. If you use it to help drill into your question query. But I might use the word several. This is a lot. This is a 35-year argument in my marriage. Does several mean something loose, like 3 to 5 things? Or does several mean something specific, like 3? I think it's loose. My spouse thinks it's specific. We always do this. We use these words and we think everybody interprets the words the way we interpret them. And so if you're trying to ask a question, and remember, we're still at like the middle level. We're not at the deep level yet. We got to get back down to curiosity in a minute. But when you are asking a question so that you can frame an A/B test, for instance, or chase down feedback about a particular idea, you can go into your AI engine and say, I need to ask a question that helps me get to this answer. Make sure that it's structured to be only one thing, not more than one thing. But you can also ask it, make sure that it's structured so that the words in the question are capable of being universally interpreted the same way. And it will help you stay away from words that have various interpretation. There's no way to avoid all of it, but you can get past your own perceptions of what specific words mean and get into what the majority of people think they mean in whatever language you're working in.
What are your favorite ways right now of using AI day to day?
Day to day, I love using AI for building quotes. Now we're off marketing entirely. Yeah, think about it. The vast majority of money left on the table for small business owners is left on the table in the quote process. Like, think about how many service people will go to your house and like you're ready to hand them money, right? Usually for something expensive, and then they don't get back to you for like 3 weeks. We see this with our financial services clients. We see this with our consulting clients, but we also see it with our clients that produce manufactured products of like a white label manufactured product. Quotes are hard to put together because you have to figure out what's the right thing to offer for the right amount of money. I love building quotes with the assistance of AI. It just helps me get to it faster. And there are AI-driven quoting software platforms, but you can also use any of the AI engines that you're comfortable using to help you build your quotes. But they help you think through your quote very quickly. And if you build, like we like Notebook LM a lot here because we like gating a lot of our information and our clients' information. But we have an entire notebook just on quoting, and it includes all of our support documentation on all of our expertise, what we typically charge for the services, all of our quotes. Like once we've taken a quote through the pipeline, closed won or closed lost, we package that all up as a report and we load it into our quoting folder in Notebook LM. And now it starts building this database that is pretty private of which quotes work and which don't. And so I like it a lot for quoting.
What were some mistakes when you started building that quoting process? What went wrong? What did you learn in building it?
In building the AI quoting process, or just learning to be a business that quoted well in the first place?
Well, both. Now that you're asking both.
In just learning to be good at quoting in the first place, the mistake I made, my business is 20 years old now. I consistently underquoted. I charged too little. For what? Too little. And this is the thing. And we were coaching our clients about it and still making this mistake. I was always afraid to ask for enough. And it across the board, except for our financial services customers, across the board, people have a tendency to ask too little for what they offer. We see a better behavior around that in the financial services world. And in that world, not so much in the accounting services, but in the more the VC level, much better at asking for what they should get. Okay, so that was my mistake in learning to quote, but also turning the quotes around fast enough. And honestly, that mistake just came down to fear. Like you put the whole quote together and then you put it in front of a customer and there's a strong risk that they'll reject it. And so you keep reworking and reworking the quote. That was another mistake. Oh, I've got a storm brewing. I'm going to close this.
I love that. You just made me think about our quoting process and many quoting processes of our clients. That's right. Sometimes it's, I should do these 5 things manually. Let me do it tomorrow when I land back home. And then tomorrow comes and you come home and maybe you're watering your plants, your kids need something, your dog destroyed a vase, and you forget to do it.
All three of those things just happened here.
That's life. That's life.
That's life. So yeah, so those are the mistakes I see with quoting: asking too little and delaying too long. You need to get that quote in front of somebody when they are most interested, which is usually right after a great discovery discussion.
Yeah.
So, but in building the quoting database, the mistake I made at first was we were using a combination of the subscription level ChatGPT. This was later because we started building our quoting process in the AI quoting process probably about 3 years ago now. But we stayed with sort of these general engines for a long time. So a ChatGPT, some Gemini, Claude came into the picture. We were using that, and then eventually subscription ChatGPT. But they were all general engines. And so they were, and we hadn't built our own quoting agent internally yet. It just didn't seem like the priority, right? I was using it because I do most of the sales for our organization, but we were building agents for things that were used more by the rest of my staff. The mistake was not locking it up. You don't want your quoting engine looking to the outside world for information because it's not helpful. And so when we moved the quoting engine into Notebook LM and we were able to isolate what our questions were against only our chosen documentation, that's when it started getting really good. Because even when you prompt an AI engine, I only want you to work on the documents I've uploaded here, it doesn't necessarily,
never do that.
It
No.
loses your
Yeah.
preferences over and over.
Yeah.
And then you end up scolding it like a naughty teenager instead of actually moving forward. So that
What
was
do
the
you need
mistake.
to collect in that stage? Probably like the tax number and the address of the company on the other side?
So what we usually collect in our quoting system is, first of all, we have some really thoughtful documents about all of our expertise. So we've built what we call expertise playbooks. And because I have 4 companies, we have some really specific types of expertise, and I can cross over between the companies when a company needs us to. So many of you as consultants will have the same thing. You can cross over your disciplines. So all of our expertise playbooks are in there. Then we have our history of now. We went back in time. I've got about 8 years worth of quotations loaded as they're like mini internal case studies. Nothing I'd want to share with the outside world, but they're like, who was the company? What was their need? What was their buying committee like? It's really important to know what kind of environment you're selling into, because the same quote to buyer committee A is very different than the same quote to, or a similar quote to a company with a solo decision maker. So what the buying committee was like, what they thought their budget was at the beginning versus what their budget was, what we quoted. We've got all the discovery notes in that little case study. So, what we found we needed, and then what we offered, and whether it was closed won or closed lost, or if there were multiple steps to closing that deal, what we had to go through to close it. So every one of those quotation case studies is in there. So now when I go to do a new quote, I'm bumping it against that knowledge base of quotations and companies. So a new quote, I'm going to pull the tax information of the company, any backgrounder that we do on a company, and we always do a lot of research on a company before we do a quote. And so we turn it into sort of like a forward-looking case study, like here's who they are, this is how they buy, this is what they say they need, this is what we think they need. Because what they say they need and what they think they need are often very different things. And not because anybody's trying to be misleading, just because people don't always know what the answer. People will come to you and they'll say, this is what I want you to do. How we want you to do it more often, instead of this is the objective I want to achieve. And so you're always in your discovery trying to get to, but what are you trying to achieve? That's in our information. And then we submit it to our our Notebook LM quoting environment. And we say, okay, give me the outline of what kind of quote will work. And then you're just challenging it back and forth. Now, I may go out to an external engine for answers as they occur to me, but I'm challenging, and this is really important for anything you use, challenging those answers for references. Because as I say I go out to Claude and I say, okay, I need this kind of information on this company. I'm always in my persistent preferences requiring it to give me links to the answers that it's giving and rationale for the answers it's giving. And remember that more and more of the answers that we get on the internet, on open AI search, are coming back to articles that were written with AI. And so it's now a snake eating its tail. So you've even got to be skeptical of those reference links that it's giving you. But then once we've challenged an answer, then we'll package it up as a note, load it into Notebook LM, and then include that as part of our discovery process.
Very tactical question, but the little things are important, and you are a pro, you are on the tactical level. Do you send a Google Doc, or do you send something like a DocuSign or PandaDoc on top of it so that it's professionally signed?
Oh, your quote, it's such a good question. Your quote is part of your branding. It's part of your expression of who you are as a company. It will determine whether somebody feels confident about what you're telling them or not. It will determine how professional they think you are. And so every time I see a quote come through to me in like an email with 6 bullet points, I'm like, oh, bless your heart. I really need to talk to you about your quotation process. No, it should always be some professional format. A PandaDoc can be a good one if that's what your company uses. We're HubSpot partners, but we also use HubSpot internally. We're partners with a lot of software. So I use HubSpot's quotation engine. It always should be professional, but there's a lot of good ways to do that. And we are technology agnostic here. So as long as it looks good and presents your company correctly and is very clearly stated and not too long, because nobody wants to read anymore, they're going to skim it. So you got to make sure that
max.
Max. I mean, unless you're making a proposal for, a 100-store retail chain rollout, that's going to be hard to do in 2 pages. So it's got to be the right length for the effort. But when it has to be longer than 2 pages, we always put an executive summary up top. So the skimmers can look at the summary and say, is it worth my time? And then we do the too long didn't read section below and lay out all of our details. I also put the price right at the top of every single quote. It's tempting to think, well, I'm going to talk them through all the reasons and benefits why they should hire us, and then hide my price at the bottom. They're going to the bottom first anyway.
Yeah.
So just be bold and this is going to cost you $72,500. Here's why.
And they still read it.
Oh, they'll still read it. Honestly, if they won't, you were out of budget for them anyway. And then the question is, are you willing to charge that much less to get their attention? They're the wrong customer for you. Move on.
I like your approach. You say a sales system needs to be reliable. You talk about clear buyer triggers, a simple pipeline, and a coaching rhythm tied to a few numbers. Can you walk us through your system?
So we use a sales pipeline system, and we do not confuse our sales pipeline with our service pipeline, which happens all the time. No matter what CRM system we stumble into at a new client, we will find if it's a system that offers a pipeline, they've mushed up their sales and their service pipelines, or by which I mean a sales pipeline lasts from the moment you've targeted a customer, like your Dream 100, or a customer has come into you and presented themselves as a lead, to the point where you close the sale. They've said yes. Everything after that is a service pipeline. Now, it may be your sales team that's doing the onboarding or producing the custom goods, or it may be your customer service team, or it may be you in both cases. But sales lasts from lead or target to close, and service lasts beyond that. So that's the first thing, is make sure you understand the difference between your sales and your service pipeline. Simple sales process. So don't make your pipeline too complicated. It never needs to be complicated. If I see an 11 pipeline, I know that's a pipeline that's not being used. There's no reason to have even really long, like when we're selling major, like an ERP like sourcing through implementation and training, that's a complex process. The sale lasts, or the delivery lasts for a solid 18 to 24 months. that's still only a 5-stage pipeline. You may be doing a lot in those individual pipes, but don't overcomplicate your pipelines. Don't overcomplicate anything. Life's too short. So keep your pipeline simple. Make sure you understand that customer journey. Again, the technology will help you manage and stay on top of your selling process. But if you don't understand the buying process from your customer's perspective, if your sales pipeline is constructed according to the way you like to sell, or if you just haven't thought about it, you've constructed your sales pipeline the way you're used to selling, and you don't understand what the drivers are of decisions at your customer side or your prospect side, you're having two different conversations. The buyer's having this conversation, you're having this conversation, and they're not meeting. So your sales pipeline should be constructed based on an understanding of the customer journey. And so again, it's kind of like what A/B testing, there's your sales pipeline versus curiosity or customer journey. The way you think about things has to be from your customer's perspective.
And how do you align that? How do you build it from the buyer's journey's perspective rather than from your product perspective?
You ask a lot of questions. It goes back to curiosity. So you have to be so curious about your customers. You have to really want to understand how they think, how they feel. Every decision comes from feelings. You may think you are the most rational, keep my feelings out of it person in the world. But the reality is we all make decisions based on feelings, whether we recognize them or not. So if you don't understand how your customers feel, and that takes a certain amount of probing and curiosity and questions, every time we lose a deal, I go back and ask that customer to tell me why I lost it. I want to understand where I missed the mark. And they'll always say, oh, your price was off, or we were used to working with this other company. That is the easy answer. And you won't get everyone, you won't even get half of them to engage past that point. They'll be like, no, that's the answer. But if you can get them to engage in a really open and honest conversation, and that takes a certain amount of trust, that's why less than half of them will do it, they'll dig in and help you understand where you missed the mark. So that's understanding how the customer's process works. And our failures teach us that more often than our wins do. If you're not that curious about other people, if you don't really want to have those conversations, and some people don't, then hire somebody who is that curious and does want to have those conversations, either temporarily or on staff, but be willing to listen to them. So you don't have to do the curiosity work, but you have to let the curiosity do the work.
What else are you seeing in their sales processes where you go, guys, no, improve this, please?
So overcomplicated sales pipelines, just not using it. Like when you use a sales, so first of all, where do you think most sales are lost? Most people think it's in pricing. It's not.
In the follow-up?
Dropping the ball.
Yeah.
Follow-up, yes, kind of follow-up, but it's just dropping the ball, not following up fast enough, not following up often enough, not doing it in the right ways in the sales pipeline. Nobody wants to be annoying. And annoying is, did you make a decision yet? Did you make a decision yet? Okay, that's annoying. But
and you know what's funny? When we overcome ourselves and do that follow-up email, that they usually say, oh, thank you for reaching out. I was hoping you reach out. I forgot about it, but I wanted to do it.
So true. It is so true. If you really believe in whatever you have to offer and that it brings value to people, then you recognize that selling isn't an annoyance. It's a gift. I want to help you solve a problem that you need to solve. And I am here to help you do that. And when you flip that script from feeling like sales is annoying to sales is a gift, it gets much easier to follow up. Our fear gets in the way a lot more often than anything else. So back to your question about where mistakes are made in the sales pipeline, it's not so much the not following up. That's the symptom or the result. It's not using the system that you've picked, whatever it is, to make sure you do the follow-up. Because as you said, the dog knocks over a plant, or the wind in my case, or, a bunch of people show up, or you get a phone call you didn't expect and it goes out of your head. All good CRM systems with sales enablement in them have a task component to them. Every single time you do a sales outreach or response, you should be assigning yourself a task for the next one. Or if you're a sales manager, assigning your sales team, the right person, or the round robin that you've got assigned to it, the next task. If I look at a sales pipeline and I do not see every single card in that pipeline with a next action scheduled, I know they're not using their pipeline. So that's the next step, is that every sales process should always have a next step and a next step and a next step assigned to it. Sometimes those can be automated steps, particularly if you have a very predictable pipeline. Sometimes they have to be manual steps, and you do the work of thinking what needs to happen next and when should it happen and who's the best person to do it. But there always must be a next step. So that's the second mistake. First mistake, too complicated of a pipeline. Second mistake, not assigning next actions to your sales process. Third mistake, not becoming a willing servant of your task list. So every day when I get to the office, and I was never that employee that loved to be assigned a lot of tasks, right? There's a reason we own our own companies, but I am a willing servant of my task list. I log into my CRM every single morning. It shows me all the follow-ups I'm supposed to do today. I've got time blocked to follow up with all of my tasks, and I knock those tasks off the list. It is the hardest thing to train sales teams to do. When we go in to do sales enablement implementations, which are always followed by training, and it's almost never the software we need to train people on. I mean, a little. It's mostly the disciplines of using the software. Oh my God, it's hard to get salespeople to use task lists. They love the phone call, they love the interaction, they love the hunt, but they don't like the follow-up. So again, automate as much as you can, but remember that too much automation will genericize your sales outreach. So there is an amount of automation that's the right amount, an amount that's too much. So do the work of thinking about what needs to be done next. And when you see, oh, wow, this step always is next, that's an automation step. If you recognize that some steps you really need to think more about, that's not an automation step. That's a human, think about the context, about your communications, and make a decision. And that's something humans do better than computers. But make sure they all land as a task, and that we all become servants of our sales task list. And then you solve, honestly, like 85% of the failures of a sales pipeline right there in those 3 steps.
Let's become servants of our task lists, guys. Since you mentioned hunting, what works right now in prospecting and what doesn't, specifically in this day and age?
Let's do what doesn't. Automated LinkedIn outreach. Please stop it. Everybody just stop it already, because there is no way you're getting response rates that are better than 0.01%.
I just saw your profile. I think we should connect.
It's just awful. And it sets you up for so much failure. Also, lead gen companies rarely can do your brand the kind of justice that it needs. If they're just dialing for dollars and cold calling, if you actually get someone on the phone that's interested in what you have to offer, what does that person want to have happen in that phone call? Answers. And your lead gen company cannot do that. If they're just booking meetings for you, they can't do that. And so I see a lot of companies spending a ton of money on what looks like cheap and easy and fast lead gen. I told you we're software partners with a lot of different software companies. And one of the software companies we are partners with tried to really push us as part of their partner channel to hiring lead gen so we could sell more of their software. And I noticed 3 years later, they weren't pushing it on anybody. Why? Because it didn't build brand value. It was just a lot of dollars going out the door. Anyway, the sidebar. What does work in lead gen is identifying, again, who are you? What do you do that makes you different? Why do you matter? And to whom do you matter? And you do the research. You just do the research. Their LinkedIn is very powerful. Follow people that you think might be of interest to you. Post information or share information that you think is of interest to your customers, but which reflects what you have to offer, puts you in their space. Tools like Crunchbase can be very useful to you. So you can do company research. Any tool that will allow you to do company research can be very useful. And build your lists. Now, I'm a big proponent of having one pipe in your pipeline be your dream 100. And this is not an idea I came up with. It's an idea that came out of, what's his name? Chuck?
I think Chet Holmes.
Chet Holmes. That's it. Chet Holmes. That's his idea. But I have been embracing that. I'm like long enough. I'm old enough to have been embracing that since the 1980s. So, but the whole idea is build a list of 100 companies that you know would be the perfect customers for you, that what you do matters to them, and then work that list. And you're going to find ways to connect with them on LinkedIn, or you're going to find ways to connect with them at local networking events, or it's old school selling, but it works. And when you move one of those Dream 100 into your pipeline, because you got the meeting and you've got the conversation, pick a new one. Always keep that list at 100. If everyone would just build a Dream 100, you wouldn't be worried about trying to, spend so much money on lead generation companies or even Google ads. Like Google ads are great if what you sell is extremely high volume. We have customers that produce goods that sell for less than $100. Google ads are great for that because they're selling e-com and their pipeline is very different. But for service companies, it's never going to yield the kind of value. Not necessarily true. If you have a service company that's like a local service company, you're a plumber, you're, some kind of a HVAC, something like that. Yes, Google ads can be really useful on the local basis. But for service companies that sell a product that requires more exploration and trust, your Dream 100 is going to be the best lead generation channel you've got. And once you building the 100 the first time, that takes a lot of effort. You're going to do a lot of research to build that list. Once you've built the list and you're working the list and you're refining, like you may find, oh, wow, 5 of the people on this list, those are not companies that are actually our target. So you're constantly refining your Dream 100, but maintaining it over time becomes much less difficult. But building it the first time takes a lot of effort.
And let's say overcome my service avoidance to my task list. And I do have those 100. Should I call them, send them a LinkedIn message, email them, all the 3? How much time to research per day? Should AI research it?
AI can certainly help you, but make sure you challenge its results. It's going to draw a lot of conclusions that may or may not be accurate. And again, that goes back to the quality of your question asking. So this is why I like Notebook LM and products like it for allowing you to build a gated environment of content. Because you need to make sure that the answers that you get when you're doing research on your companies are relevant to what you're going to do with those answers. So, but AI can certainly be a component of that. The answer is it depends. So if you have more than one child, then you don't parent those children the same way. Mm-hmm. Each child needs a different approach to parenting. You may be consistent across the board in your family rules. You may be consistent in the board on your family patterns and schedules. But even once they're teenagers, you can't even do that because one of them plays soccer and one of them plays rugby and one of them's in the band. And so you have to parent your prospects as you would parent multiple children. Some of them are active on LinkedIn and they trust that channel and you can build that relationship there. Some of them are not active on social media and they prefer email. Some of them will pick up the phone and some of them won't. So here it would be nice to tell you there's like a rule for what you should do, but the reality is you need to parent your prospect list.
Parent your prospect list. I like that. That will be the title of this episode. Andrea, you run your company from Wisconsin. So you are not playing the game of let me show you my fancy New York office. Do you miss it sometimes? What is the decision for you?
Not at all. When I first opened this company in 2007, I'm a Chicagoan, and we opened up offices downtown Chicago. And nobody comes to you when you're a consultant, you go to them. So I had, back then I started with 2 employees. And we were like, I love, both of them had worked for me in the past in other companies. So it's like, I love seeing them every day, but we were fighting traffic. And anyway, we decided to go virtual in 2008. So long before the pandemic, we were a virtual company, and long before we could get anyone to sign on to a Zoom session. Today, I have employees in Italy, the UK, Canada, all over the US. And I feel like we've really refined the process of being a virtual company. So it's never your beautiful office. And a lot of our customers are in luxury goods. We have some beautiful office clients. But it's never the office that sells what you have to offer. It's how relevant you are to the target you've identified. And so you can see I've got my plants blowing off the shelf behind me as the wind picks up, and you might hear my dog actually barking in the background. With my employees, you'll hear the same thing. And we've just decided we're gonna sell ourselves based on the values that we have to offer and not worry about the fancy office. Some of you can't do that. Like, we've got clients who have to be able to show products, high value products in an office setting. So there's a strong argument for having a big, beautiful office, but it's by no means more important, even when you do need that office, than how you position yourself and how you answer those questions I keep coming back to. Who are we? What do we do that's different? Why do we matter?
Your book was originally called Beyond Profit, and then you retitled it Straight Talk in 2025. What changed in the book? Why the change?
I felt like there was so much crooked talk or just uninformed talk. By crooked, I don't mean intentionally misleading. Everybody thinks they understand AI well enough to talk about it. And there was a study out of MIT not that long ago. It's about a year now. 95, or it was exposing the idea that 95% of all AI implementations had failed. And for some reason, that was shocking to people, though I can tell you that more than 50% of ERP implementations fail and have done since the 1980s. Not ours, but they do. They fail quite often. Understanding how to use a technology is not the same as understanding why to use a technology and when to use a technology. And so I changed the name of the book because I didn't want to be part of the hype cycle. I wanted to be part of delivering value to our customers. And that's why I changed it to Straight Talk. I learned to code on punch cards. So I don't just have children. I have grandchildren and great grandchildren. Okay, I've been coding a long time. Shoshana Zuboff's book, In the Age of the Smart Machine, transformed my vision of what I wanted to do with my career. I started out as a music major, but I discovered coding, visiting a boyfriend in the computer lab, and realized how transformative technology could be to society, but also how it could damage it. And wanted to be part. There's no stopping technology. There's no long game in being a Luddite. But I wanted to be part of making sure that technology played a meaningful role in people's lives. And I've carried that with me through my whole career. And so with AI, I've been a student of it for years. I understand it at the technical level. I understand it at the training level. And my responsibility is to bring it to companies at the practical level so they can get value out of it. And that's why the title changed from, to Straight Talk. I forgot about that title change.
Yeah. And you are obviously a pro. You're really, really good at what you do, and you do it with a big, big heart. So we want to follow your knowledge, your journey everywhere. Where should we go and follow you, Andrea?
Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Don't send me a weird,
I just
text.
found you.
Don't send me that. Just say, hey, let's connect. I'm happy to connect. you can, I guess the easiest way to get to all of our brands would be at hill-management.com. That's the corporate, but all of our work is done at the brand level. I also write a blog at andreahill.today, though I neglected a lot, but there's a lot of thought, my business thought process there as well.
This is so good. Everybody on LinkedIn, it's Andrea Hill, and the website readstraighttalk.com. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Andrea, for being here. Please come back soon. This is so good. We should do a workshop, something bigger together in our communities soon.
That would be fun.
I will follow up.
Okay, sounds good.
Keep rolling. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.